So if you just look across the board, you've got three big weights: the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. The establishment of IMF happened in the year 27th December 9 to facilitate expansion and balanced growth in the international fraternity and international trade. The WTO is the only global international organization deals with the rules of trade between nations. Now look at the power. It was attended by 44 countries. India also participated at that point of time. So this becomes Good morning and welcome to the fourth session on business environment in Unit 4, where we are going to talk about the World Bank and IMF. Is there a possibility in this world where you will be able to experience the growth and dynamics without the world-class institutions? Absolutely not. So that's why you always need an institution, you need an organization that can monitor the growth, that can guide you, and that can assist you at any given point of time. In the changing dynamics of business, definitely you need a superpower institution which is going to monitor and guide us. So let's go forward and try to understand who are they. We are going to look into the IMF, the WTO and its operations, and also about the World Bank and its operations. So if you just look across the board, you've got three big weights: the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. Probably their names have been known to us for ages. Their names have been known to us for many, many years by now. But then the roles, the operation, the fundamental strength that they bring in terms of doing the business, it's quite phenomenal altogether. Now, starting up with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. This was an international organization which is headquartered in the Washington, D.C., of 189 countries. That serves about 189 countries. Simply, mind-boggling altogether. The IMF has got its presence across in 189 countries, and it's been headquartered in Washington, D.C. It is the governing body in terms of facilitating the global economic activity altogether. So that's why when you read through the logo, read through the lines of IMF, they say very clearly to foster global monetary cooperation, to secure the financial stability, facilitate international trade, promote high employment and sustainable economic growth, reduce the poverty around the world. So IMF tells very, very clearly that they want to be an organization that promotes the economic cooperation, that promotes the monetary stability, secure all the financial transactions as far as possible. So this is the organization that is concerned with the activity of global trade, global business altogether, and their ideology is very, very simple. Why? Because they believe on the factor that they want to go forward, they want to drive in all the facilities of development, of growth altogether, and they believe that they have to be an organization that can supervise, that can guide all the countries, all the nations in terms of various economic transactions. Moving forward, the establishment of IMF happened in the year 27th December 1945, and during the closing years of Second World War, the different countries realized that there must be a common international forum for achieving economic cooperation and promoting international trade. Now, this is a very, very genuine and a noble thought that could have come across to any of the nation after seeing such a drastic world war that happened in the last few years. So after that 1940 to 1945, probably the worst years of the world century, where we can talk about the great world wars happening. And after that, every country started thinking that this is the time for each one of us to come forward and start fostering an economic trade promotion council that will work towards the common entity, towards a common growth altogether. So we need to provide a speedy recovery, a speedy system altogether. So that's why we started providing help to the needy nations during the emergency time altogether. The World War II has its adverse effect on the global economy. The remedy to this situation was an international monetary conference that was convened in 1944 at the Bretton Woods in America. Now, that's a very, very big conference that happened in 1944, a turnaround situation that was brought in so that the people across the globe started understanding the factors. And that was the point at which people started understanding that, yes, we need an establishment of an institution like IMF that would come forward, understand our needs, and we will start building an international trading platform. It was attended by 44 countries. India also participated at that point of time. So this becomes a landmark meeting or a landmark system, a year that needs to be really looked upon, where India, including 144 countries across the globe, joined hands together, which led to the formation of the IMF. Followed by the purpose of setting up an IMF: to promote international cooperation, to facilitate expansion and balanced growth in the international fraternity, in the international trade, to assist the establishment of multilateral system, to make general resources available to its members experiencing balance of payments difficulties, to shorten the duration, lessen the degree of disequilibrium altogether. So when you go through this entire psychology of IMF, you will be able to understand that they have been a facilitator to many nations across the globe. The reason is that they wanted to promote, first thing is international cooperation. They wanted to see that all the nations come forward, join hands together, understand the situation and economics of growth. They never wanted to be a country which is only promoting international ideology or thought process, but they wanted to be a country which could understand the need for growth, the need for facilitating everything as far as possible. So that's why I would always say that this is the organization, this is the functionary altogether that started understanding the growth, that started understanding the need for cooperation. First of all, unless and until you join hands together, you will not be able to grow. So unity was very, very important. Second thing is that the balanced growth. Everybody should grow. Everybody should get an equal platform in terms of developing themselves and promoting to the next level. So that's why the balanced growth came into picture, followed by promoting exchange of stability. You need to promote that stability factor. You need to go and tell people how it is important for you to be there, for you to get into the factors of growth. So that's why that stability factor is very, very important. Followed by the establishment of multilateral system of payment. That is very, very important. Again, why? Because if you're going to assist yourself in development, this has to happen. Followed by the general resources available to its members experiencing a balance of payment difficulties under a difficult, an adequate safeguard. So everybody wants to be completely secured, completely run a business which is quite well established, quite well settled, and where the barriers come down to a great extent. So that is where these people came into picture. They understood the need, the necessity altogether, and then they started promoting this business. Then, to shorten the duration and lessen the degree of disequilibrium. So you need to lessen the degree of disequilibrium. That's a very, very important thing. Why? Because today, when you start understanding the business promotion activity, the council activity, what has been happening is that people have been trying to make all sort of perceptions, beliefs, and factors. They've started seeing that this is the opportunity or this is the factor where we can start pointing fingers at each other and then start creating a disintegration. But then the role of IMF is to see that lessen the degree of disequilibrium, bring in an economic cooperation, bring in a factor of change that can make the growth happen even more stronger. So that's why I would always say bring in the factors of the lesser the differentiation and bring in more of cooperation. followed by the World Trade Organization. Now, most of you might have heard about the World Trade Organization, the logo, their symbols, and the growth aspect. But then, this is the organization that intends to supervise, liberalize the international trade. So, from a monetary perspective, now we are moving into a trade perspective altogether. The WTO is the only global international organization deals with the rules of trade between nations. Now look at the power, look at the effect altogether. Who is going to write the rules? Who is going to dictate you, telling that how you need to deal with North Korea, how you need to do business with South Korea or with China or Vietnam or Thailand or Malaysia or Singapore or Hong Kong, whichever country you're going to talk about? It is the World Trade Organization that is going to write the rules, that is going to predict and say that this is the way you need to do business, this is the way how you need to govern the system. So that is why this becomes a very, very important organization altogether. The goal is to help the producers of goods and services, exporters and importers, to conduct their business. And look at the novel thought of the World Trade Organization. They want to help each and every good producer, each and every manufacturer, each and every country to have a common platform through which they can sell their products at a fair price and promote equality and equal business system altogether. Now, the World Trade Organization also aims to see that can they provide a system, can they provide a platform where there is an equal contribution by every single nation across the globe who can join hands together, who can understand the system, who can come in for the betterment of the global system altogether. Followed by the history. The Second World War is again responsible. Why? Because after the Bretton Woods Conference, the conference concluded on IBRD, IMF and ITO. The GATT was the only multilateral institution until 1948, until the WTO was established in 1995. So after the World War, the conference that happened, which led to the formation of IMF, ITO, GATT, or probably the International Bank of Reconstruction and Development, all these people were coming up in a big way. But then what was actually coming into picture is the WTO coming back in the year 1995, which led to the formation of an international trading platform altogether. 8 rounds of international trade negotiation and the final act concluding in the Uruguay round coming down officially came into the factor, where WTO regime was signed in the year 1995. Look at the amount of deliberations, talks and debates that would have gone around. 8 rounds of international conference with so many countries, so many pacts signing in together, and all of them trying to make a common notation or an understanding saying that yes, we are going to go forward and we are going to look into the trade negotiation factors altogether. So that was a very, very important round. That was a very, very important factor which I would like to talk upon. So after all these kinds, after all the deliberations about all the factors, this has come into picture. This is where we are able to see that the negotiations have come down and people have started understanding the growth aspect altogether. The principles of WTO. So what is the principle? Trade without discrimination, most favored nation, national treatment, a free trade system altogether, transparency, promotion, fair competition altogether, encouraging development. So if you look into WTO, the aspect of thinking is very, very simple. They want to see trade without any sort of discrimination. Let's not have any bias towards any country in this world whatsoever because of religion, caste, creed, color, or any kind of thing, or they follow a particular kind of government. Let's not go by that. Let's get a trade which is free from all kind of barriers. Let's start favoring the nation. Let's have the most favored nation where we will be able to promote them, where we will be able to give them the scope of growth altogether. National treatment, equality in making every nation feel important about business, about the trade activities. followed by the free trade through negotiation. I want to be a part of the system where I can give free trade, where I can open the doors of the system, make every country come forward, exchange the trade, bring in transparency, promote fair competition. Everybody should be equal. Everybody should be able to create a system through which they can trade across and encourage development. Every country should get developed through trade activity. That is how systems will become even more interesting. Followed by the objectives of WTO. So again, they brought in the objective to implement a new trade organization, a multilateral, where you have multiple dimensions, you have a multiple system of trading, free trade concept, with the benefits for every member, ensure that every developing country gets a bigger share altogether, increase the level of production and productivity, which becomes a very, very important part to take steps in development of the poorest nation. So at any given point of time, even the poorest country should get a benefit by becoming a member of this. So today, when you see the presence of WTO in 194 countries or 195 countries across the globe, their presence is more about bringing in equality, promoting a fair trade, and giving every country a chance to become bigger and better day by day. Followed by the functioning of WTO, you would see that they are administrating the World Trade Organizations. They provide a forum for trade negotiation, handling the trade disputes between the country, monitoring the national trade policies that you are seeing here, cooperation with other international organizations, and they also form a forum for trade liberalization. So probably they are the largest organization which creates a table, which creates a forum through which, if you have any disputes, if you have any problem, if you feel that other countries are blocking you or bringing in any sort of challenges, you can go to the WTO and address your query, and they will be more than happy to help you out. They will be more than happy to bring in a platform where you will be able to address your queries and bring in a better system in terms of trading. Followed by the World Bank. The World Bank Group is a unique global partnership of 5 institutions working for a sustainable solution that reduces poverty, built in shared prosperity, and in the developing countries altogether. The World Bank is a very, very unique and an interesting group that completely works in terms of reducing the poverty and bringing in a better shared system for this global welfare altogether. Now, this is one kind of an environment, this is one kind of an organization. When you start seeing it, it is of a great pride and honor. Why? Because the global institution like World Bank strives hard in order to bring in a complete prosperity among people, complete prosperity among the system, and their ideology and systems are so well built that they want to bring in a complete institution which will work together for a common cause, for a common development altogether. Their ideology, their systems are so well built. They believe that in order to bring in a system, in order to bring in a complete hierarchy, a complete methodology altogether, you need to first of all reduce the poverty. You need to bring in solutions. You need to bring in a shared prosperity altogether. You need to make this world a common living place, a better living place where people can have a better perspectives altogether. Now, the World Bank provides an array of financial products, technical assistance, and help country to share and apply innovative knowledge and solutions or challenges they face. That's a very big factor altogether, followed by the 3 priorities. One is to create a sustainable economic growth, investing in people, building resilience to shocks and threats. Now look at the objective here very, very clearly. First, to create a sustainable economic growth. So you should be in a position to help people to create an economic growth, to create a sustainable environment. And whom you need to invest for? You have to invest in people, not just in process and technology. Enable the people to become the enablers. So that's what the World Bank exactly does, followed by building a resistance for all shocks, for all failures. So not be a pandemic or a tsunami or any great calamity. They are the people who go forward and they are able to take that shock. They are able to build the resistance altogether. Followed by the scope and existence. The World Bank exists in more than 170 countries working with partners. It was created at the end of World War II, as many European banks needed a guiding system altogether in order order to fund the reconstruction. The World Bank is successful in providing or financing all kind of activities for the devastated countries. So definitely, yes, they are said to be one of the biggest, largest countries in terms of helping the government altogether. And the World Bank helps in more than 170 countries. So that itself shows the presence of this bank in terms of helping and growing the world altogether as a common place for financial assistance. With this, I come to the end of this session. I hope and believe that the session was highly interesting, informative, and of a great resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we will be learning more about the dynamic environments under which the business is developing today. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me on this wonderful session.